Well, for the most part, Arrow Season 3 is doing a good job of keeping me interested. And to be honest, after Season 2 was over, I may have said this in one of the videos. After Season 2 was over, I was saying, they're going to be hard pressed to top themselves in Season 2. And while the plot lines in or top themselves in Season 3 following up on Season 2, specifically the later half of Season 2, dealing with Deathstroke and the Mirakuru. I thought that was phenomenal. And it's it is a little too early to tell about certain aspects and how certain plot lines will play out. And I do think the plot lines are a little too scattershot. At the beginning of season 3, I think there is a little bit too much going on all at once. Again, it is doing a good job of keeping me interested. Now, this episode dealt with Oliver, Roy, and Diggle going to Corto Maltese, the island from The Dark Knight Returns. They go to Corto Maltese to get Thea, who has been secretly training with her biological father, Malcolm Merlin. Just go with it. So she's learned how to fight. She's learned how to work past pain. She's basically been undergoing Batman training. So yeah, there's that. And in addition, Laurel is back in Starling City, and she's trying to figure out a way to take out her aggression. Her aggression being born out of Sarah's death. And that this eventually leads her to a boxing ring or a gym, which I'll get to that in a second. And in addition, Felicity is starting to work at her new job under Ray Palmer. So she gets her own office. She gets her own fancy big office. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more adjustment with that, but like I said, it did afford some pretty good scenes for Brandon Routh and Emily Bett Rickards, which Brandon Routh, I actually think I haven't given enough credit as this show has gone on, because, or at least this season has gone on, because I believe in the past few videos I've done about season 2, I've just kind of stuck him in as a footnote toward the end, like, oh, and Brandon Routh, he was good. But honestly, Brandon Routh, I actually think he makes for a I don't really want to use this phrase, because more than likely I might get someone who would correct me saying like, oh, this has been done before, but I actually found Brandon Routh's Ray Palmer to be a pretty original character, because obviously he's full of himself, and he's obviously kind of playing to that kind of Bruce Wayne, Tony Stark, playboy billionaire thing, but in addition he's this super genius. I mean, he's nearly as smart as Felicity, so and in that way he's also kind of kooky. I mean, as soon as Felicity walks in, he's like, good morning, or at least I think it's good morning. I've been here all night. Sorry if I'm a little jittery. I just had 3 cups of espresso. So yeah, I actually like how they're finding a nice mix of archetypes to create a pretty fresh new character, and Brandon Routh, like I said, plays him pretty well. So there's that. That was actually he's actually been one of the more interesting new characters this season. And in addition to that, we have a new set of flashbacks this episode. The flashbacks dealing with Thea and her training under Malcolm Merlin, which were kind of a broad brushstroke. I mean, we only get basic methods of training. Like, you need to work through pain, and he pours boiling water on her hand, and he's like, I guess we'll have to do this the hard way, and he just starts wailing on her with these wooden swords. So immediately, what I had a problem with this episode is the fact that Thea and Laurel are still nowhere near the brightest bulbs in the box. Thea, first of all, I had a problem with this plotline from the beginning. I understand that Thea has undergone some turmoil and has suffered many people lying to her over these past 2 years, over the past 2 seasons of the show, but she seems to not really take into account, or at least she seems to have forgotten about the fact that Malcolm Merlyn is a mass murderer. I mean, he may be honest, which I guess is what she's looking for, and what clearly draws her to him in a weird kind of way. But again, this is something that she deliberately neglected to visit her mom in prison for at the beginning of season 2. I mean, she was like, how can I even acknowledge that woman as my mother? I mean, when she killed that many people, and she was just, she was under duress. I mean, shouldn't she have a more aggressive reaction to the orchestrator of that plan at the end of season 1? I don't know. I mean, I just thought this whole plot line, or this whole subplot is just fundamentally flawed, just in terms of basic logic. So I couldn't really get into that, and in addition, Thea, I've never really cared much for Thea. Like I said, I don't think she's particularly bright. Roy at least has gotten better. I mean, I actually kind of like Roy now. I mean, now that he's not roided out on Mirakuru and acting all emo and temperamental and stuff. But yeah, he really seems to have grown as a character. Not really to get too specific about it in this short time span. I hope not to make this video over 10 minutes, but it doesn't really look like that's going to be a possibility. So by far, I think the more interesting plot line was the one involving Diggle tracking down this Argus agent who is carrying sensitive information as to the covers of many an Argus agent, including his wife Lila. So, kind of like the plot of Skyfall, honestly. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking, this is the plot of Skyfall, because this is basically what Javier Bardem was trying to do. Or this is basically what Javier Bardem stole at the beginning of Skyfall. But to be fair, that's about where the similarities end. But yeah, I really like how they set up Amanda Waller as this person who really gets in your head, really makes you do things that you're not really proud of. And this guy wasn't really a quote unquote evil guy. He just wanted out. So I like how they set that up and set up a potential seasonal arc for Diggle to slowly start to mistrust Amanda Waller, or at least mistrust her more than he already does, and try and think about he's really starting to think about should my wife really be in Argus. So yeah, I like how that was set up. I like how Diggle finally got something to do. I mean, which is a rare occurrence nowadays. But yeah, he. I like how Oliver and Roy seem to have his back. One really funny line was Oliver hands Roy this makeshift bow and these like 3 or 4 arrows in a quiver, and they're very hastily constructed materials because obviously they couldn't bring their weapons on a plane, so basically they toss him. He tosses him these makeshift weapons, and Roy's like, "Where'd you get these?" And Oliver's like, "Our hotel room." And it just shows this little quick montage of him taking like the blinds. He's taking springs out of the bed and using them to construct these bows and arrows. So that was cute. That showed Oliver's resourcefulness. And yeah, I think this episode, more than any others, from a storytelling perspective, can serve as a decent metaphor as to how this season is progressing up to this point, which is, again, kind of scattershot plot lines that don't really seem to connect all that well. Again, I'm glad they didn't really try to drag out, is Thea going to come back to Starling? Is she not? Yeah, for the most part, this was a solid episode. It kept me entertained. It did not resonate with me as strongly as the previous episode. And I think a big reason for that is because Laurel and Thea, I think, drug this episode down, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm honestly curious to get people's opinions. I'm over 10 minutes. Um, I'm I'm at the 10-minute mark now, but I'm honestly curious to get people's opinions. I mean, do you guys? I mean, the relatively or the very few people who watch these videos, I'm asking you now. Do you like Laurel and Thea? Because if you do, then I would love to hear why. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, I can't really say that you are wrong for liking this character. But I just want to know what their appeal is, because they have not appealed to me in the slightest since they first came on the scene. But Laurel really, I actually would have liked how they if they set up her aggression in this episode, and then followed that up with her joining the gym in the next episode. And speaking of which, Wildcat. I mean, it seems like they're really trying to set up this whole Black Canary subplot with Wildcat. And you know how Laurel, since Oliver is clearly not going to train her like a sensible human being, he's not going to train her to, go and get beat up some more. She goes to this boxer she talked to for like 2 minutes. And again, I wish they would have had her meet this guy and then maybe talk for an episode or two and then go under his tutelage. But this boxer, he may or may not be Wildcat. I don't know. But I know they cast someone as Wildcat for season 3, but I don't. But I have not seen a picture of the guy. So this guy, the guy we saw in this episode, may very well be Wildcat. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought the Laurel joining the gym subplot felt a little rushed. But aside from that, despite how a lot of these plot lines didn't really seem to directly connect with each other, aside from the geographical similarity of the two subplots that were taking place in Corto Maltese, I just really don't have that much to say about this episode that cannot also be said about other episodes. The action, the performances, the I like how they changed locations to mix things up. I liked for once we saw Oliver and Roy fighting in broad daylight, so that's a change of pace. And yeah, like I said, it is keeping me interested to see where things are going to go with all of these plot lines in season 2, and that hooker at the end with Nissa Al Ghul, with Katrina Law back as Nissa Al Ghul, definitely has me hungry for what's going to happen next.